Chapter 11. The Storage Dimension. Before I could sort myself out from the piles of stuff surrounding me, I heard a click, followed by a laugh. The click, it turned out, was made by BKR snapping the television screen back in place. The laugh came from BKR, alias Billy Becker, who was pressing his face against the screen and staring in at us. As I watched, he pushed his face closer and closer, flattening his features against the surface. Soon his nose was spreading out like a blob of melting ice cream. But he kept pressing until his smile had smushed from one side of the screen to the other, and his eyes looked like a pair of fried eggs with blue yolks. "Stop!" I cried. "It's disgusting!" BKR giggled, a wild, high-pitched sound that sent a chill down my spine. Then he began to peel his face away from the screen. That's when I realised it was a mask. A Billy Becker mask that had been smushed across the screen. As he pulled the mask away, I could see the real face of BKR, the alien criminal my tiny companions had crossed the galaxy to capture. His skin was blue. He had orange spikes instead of hair. Other than that, he looked a lot like Shirley Temple. "What a nice surprise," he said, leering at us. "That is Captain Gracker you've got with you, isn't it, Rod? I thought I recognised him when that idiot Arnie pulled him out of your backpack yesterday."
"Let the boy go, BKR," shouted Gracker. "He is of no concern to you."
I glanced at Gracker in surprise. It was the first time he had given any indication he cared what happened to me. BKR snorted. "What does it matter whether he's of any concern to me? I have him, and that's enough." Of all the things I had experienced so far, I think the coldness in BKR's voice was the most frightening yet. "No," he continued. "The real concern is what I'm going to do with you now. I don't want to leave you alone in my closet. I've got things stored there that might actually be of use to you. But should I bring you out here to take care of? Or should I just blow a hole through the back of the closet and let you drift off into the storage dimension? That is the decision I have to make." Madame Pong had climbed onto my shoulder. I felt her shudder at BKR's last suggestion, which was even scarier than the coldness in his voice. If what he was planning was that frightening to her, I knew I sure didn't want to experience it. "What's the storage dimension like?" I whispered. "An interplanetary junkyard," she replied, her voice equally soft. I thought of the junkyard on the other side of Seldom Seen. It was pretty interesting. "You can find almost anything you want there," added Snout. "Only there's no air in most of it, so we'd probably be dead before we came across anything useful." "You're awfully calm about this," I whispered. He bent his nose to the right and said, "I've never improved a situation by worrying about it." Not having Snout's philosophical training, my own level of fear was quickly building toward pure panic. The confrontation with BKR was not improved by Gracker shouting,
"This is Captain Gracker speaking. Surrender now or face justice at the hands of the Galactic Patrol."
Madame Pong sighed. BKR laughed hysterically. "Well, I've made up my mind," he said. "Enjoy the storage dimension, everyone." "BKR, stop!" cried Madame Pong. He ignored her. Holding up what looked like a standard television remote control, he put his finger directly over a button. Smiling in at us, he said, "Bye-bye, boys and girls." Before he could lower his finger and send us into the storage dimension, the good ship Furkle zoomed into the room and smacked against his head. BKR screamed with rage as he fell out of sight. The Furkle circled the room, then stopped in front of the TV. Hovering in mid-air, it aimed a purple ray at the screen holding us in the storage dimension. It shimmered and began to melt, but before the Furkle could finish the job, a blue hand reached up and swatted it sideways. "Quick, Rod!" cried Madame Pong. "Push on the barrier." I hesitated. If it was melting, it would probably be hot enough to burn my hands off.
"Hurry!" cried Gracker. "It's our only hope."
Well, having no hands was better than being totally dead. I lunged forward. To my surprise, the screen wasn't hot at all. It popped out, and I burst through the front of the TV like some full-sized jack-in-the-box.
"Good work, Rod!"
cried Gracker, zooming over me with his flying pack. I didn't have time to appreciate the compliment. I'd stumbled over the edge of the opening and landed on top of BKR. He looked as if he was interested in making sure I never did anything like that again as long as I lived, mostly by making how long I lived really, really short. Grabbing my skull between his hands, which were astonishingly strong, he began to squeeze. "I don't have any bugs, Rod," he yelled, "so why don't I just squish your head instead?" The pain was incredible. "Stop!" I screamed. "Stop!"
"Unhand that earthling!"
roared Gracker, flying overhead and zapping Billy with his ray gun. "Ow!" cried Billy. He slapped his right hand to the side of his head where a tiny ray of light struck him. It's hard to squeeze something between your hands when only one of them is in place. I took the chance to roll out of his grip. Billy bellowed with rage, but before he could grab me, the Furkle sailed in front of him. To my astonishment, an orange ray came out of the bottom and sucked Gracker into the ship. Suddenly I realised that Madam Pong and Snout were nowhere to be seen. Had the ship pulled them in as well? I feared that they would abandon me in the hands of Billy Becker. That wasn't fair, I now realise. The aliens considered me one of them and were planning to take care of me, which is why the ship flew over and pointed the ray at me. Only now it was purple instead of orange. I couldn't figure out what they were up to. Were they going to use the tractor beam to pick me up and then fly out of here? Suddenly I noticed that the room was getting bigger. The chairs seemed to be growing, the walls getting further away, the ceiling getting higher. The Furkle was growing too. That was when I realised nothing was growing. I was getting smaller, and smaller, and smaller, until I was about 2 inches high. Before I could figure out what it felt like to be only 2 inches high, I heard Billy Becker cry, "A bug! I hate bugs! It's squishing time!" It wasn't until I saw his giant hand hurtling toward my head that I realised I was the bug he was shouting about.